everyone, and welcome back to another Spark of Genius Flesh and Blood production. And we have two of the most brute players I know. I'm pretty sure Nghia is a brute main at this point, and Yuki is now a brute main. But this is two members of Team Stroopwafel, which is good because there's two Stroopwafels on the logo. So this is actually really good timing. So we have both of those Stroopwafels with us, and we're here to talk about Kayo, specifically 19 and 2 KO, because I believe that was the combined record between these two brute players in the battle hardened Hartford. Oh, that's a hard city to remember. Hartford, Hartford, Connecticut. And this is not so. The only thing I will preface, in case people are curious, for very detailed sideboarding and matchup guide strategy and the very the juicy stuff, like the stuff that you really want to study to play this deck, go check out Yuki's Patreon and On the Bubble at Patreon. The link will be in the description. She will have all the information you might be looking for if you want something more after this video, during this video. And that's my preface that I'll say for this. So I have Yuki's list up here, which happens to be very similar to Nghia's list for no particular reason. A couple cards missing here and there. But this is the list that we were kind of all working on in some kind of capacity. Obviously, Yuki working on a little bit more in a capacity for different kind of matchups. Much lighter than a regular Yuki testing regiment, and very much lighter than a regular Nghia testing. I don't even know if Nghia played any games on this deck before the battle.
I played the CC event the day before, which was 3 rounds. Those were all my reps on the deck.
All right, so Nghia X2'd with 3 rounds, and Yuki just went XO. So a lot of matchups weren't testing.
Yeah, I think I had 20 games on the deck, maybe ish.
Sounds about
total
right.
ever.
Based on the results.
It was not a lot leading up to the event. Yeah.
No, that's fair. So we're gonna go over kind of KO in a nutshell, and then we're gonna go over some of the cards here and there, and the idea behind this deck, like some of the more general themes of this deck, because KO's a brand new hero, and I don't think anyone really knows exactly how to play this hero. Either super aggressive, obviously Yuki's is more as mid-range in the list. It's a little bit more of a mid-rangey deck, but you could probably play this deck any kind of way. So I kind of want to start with Yuki, why KO? And I want to hear Nghia right after why KO. And don't just tell me because Yuki had the list that you just played it. I want to know exactly why. So Yuki, why don't you start?
I was just kind of looking at the new cards, and I was like, man, Brute has all this go again with agility, so you don't have to roll scabs anymore, which was the biggest thing that I hated about the class, was just you get there's certain matchups and spots where you just have to roll scabs and it feels bad. Where it's correct to roll scabs, you don't have to, but it's often correct, and I don't really enjoy that. So the agility really kind of just helps alleviate that. Having a ton of 6s in the deck because of KO's ability, giving +1 everywhere that's not the combat chain, just means you can have an ultra consistent brute deck, which is another kind of pain point for the class. And I don't know, they got some real sweet cards like Cast Bone, Send Packing, Apex Bonebreaker. They recently got Scowling Fleshbag, which was a crazy piece of equipment as well. So I was just I think Brute has some of the best equipment in the game. They got some new cards. I'm kind of curious to see what they can do. Maybe some of the randomness is no longer there, and that does seem to be the case for KO. Well, it can be the case. You can make the deck random if you want to.
Yeah, it's I think Battlehardened was also a good time to test this with PT coming up. It's the ideal time to test this brand new hero. Nghia, tell me why you played this hero, please.
Yuki told me the deck was good. And I didn't know what to play really. Yuki told me the deck was good. So I was like, you know what? I looked at the math. The math checked out really. I was like, if the math is good, I have to play it, even though I didn't want to play Brute.
I mean, this is essentially just Katsu, right? You just throw attacks.
It's really like Lexi, to be honest. Yuki was
Lexi.
super right by saying it's just like Lexi. The way you form your turns and the way you set up your big turns with Blood Rush really feels akin to Lexi.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I want to talk about a couple of these cards and ask about how key they are in the decks, because there's a lot of cards. It's a brand new deck building construction. I'm not going to talk about why Blood Rush. Well, why not? I'm not going to talk about those kinds of cards. Some of the new cards, like We have agile windup. I mean, Yuki, you just mentioned kind of the ability to generate the on-demand go again, with the might being a nice bonus from the KO ability, and a couple more there. So let's kind of start with the windups, because this was the same in both lists. I'll kind of mention that Nia's list was slightly different, but both lists ran all the windups here. So so 3 yellow agile, 3 blue agile, and 3 blue mighty windups, based on the list here. So was there any reason why like exactly these 9? Were you kind of floating between different numbers of these? I will say Mighty Windup is probably a lot not weirder per se, but less obvious than the Agile Windups. So was
Mhm.
there any kind of rationale behind that?
Yeah, so the main reason to include the agile windups giving you the agility and the might is like
Yeah.
just really, really powerful. Um, the other thing that the windups do really well is they turn on your claw. So you can discard and turn on claws go again, which you can actually do as an instant in like resolution step, which can matter into decks like Kano.
Mhm.
So it's kind of cute. And just like Mighty Windup being a blue that you can convert for like essentially 2 value, you get a might from it and you get a might from KO, and then
Mhm.
it turns on your claw is just like really, really solid. Um, so yeah, generally blues that are just like very flexible and you can kind of convert them easily are nice. And I feel like the windups really just like let you convert your hands.
Yeah.
Um, I was originally only on the blue windups, and then I was just like, no, agile windup is so good. You
Or
got
the
to play the
yellows.
yellows.
Yeah.
I think you could maybe even consider the reds, but it is a lot of 2 blocks. So
Yeah. That's probably like did the 9 feel comfy for you? Like the amount of like ratios between 2, and that's for both of you. How did the windups feel? Did you ever kind of wish they were like a 3 block, or did you ever wish they were just like some kind of brute go again attack, or maybe like more non blocks, wild rise or something like that? Or do you feel kind of comfortable with the 9 windups?
I don't think I ever blocked with one in any of the rounds. They all felt really good. Like being able to do it on my opponent's turn if I draw like a runner, or being able to
Yep.
do it on like my turn with the claw and then set up for like the next big turn arsenal, like a blood rush or something like that feels really good.
That's fair. So whenever you kind of like saw this in your hand, it was more of a, this creates so much more aggressive value. You might as well just discard it either on your own turn or their turn, depending on how your cards line up. Is that the kind of idea?
Ye- Yeah, I think I was talking about this with some of the people that I drove down with, but we were valuing the agility at like a value of like minimum 2,
Okay.
because like
Mhm.
at worst it's probably worth 2 with the go again and brute, but then like just because of how efficient KO is, probably worth more in the long run.
Right.
Mhm.
And then
Okay.
obviously you get the might if you do it on your own turn as well, so it's like
Yeah.
+1 on top of that, so you're at least
Yeah.
getting your 3.
Yeah, you technically like can block with it, and
Mhm.
I think I did in like a few spots if there's like a really scary on hit and I have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, you would rather discard it or just pitch it. That's the other really nice thing about them being blue and yellow is that you kind of want to like maintain pressure and maintain go again like
Right.
every turn if you can, and just having that go to your second cycle and being like, no, I still have like maybe your attacks get less good, you have less power cards, but you still have gas and still have the ability to go wide, and you're just sort of naturally pitching that to the
Mhm.
bottom. So the windups really sort of allow you to do that. And I also just like hardcast yellow windup
Just like on
an
your own
okay
turn.
amount. Yeah, just like I'm not hoping to do it, but like sometimes you blood rush and you're just like, well, I have a 3 for 6. Like I don't know, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's a
It's,
three
it's
for eight with blood rush. Like
yeah. It's still a
I'm not
brute.
gonna not throw attack. Like
Yeah.
it's fine. So
Yeah. No, that makes
yeah,
sense. I've definitely seen like even like off of might is just like a 3 for 7, which is just like 2 card 3 for 7 is still 2 card 3 for 7. That makes sense. You kind of mentioned the ability to kind of go a little bit wider with the claw and such with these agility. KO only has 1 claw, so I was curious, how many times did that really come into play where maybe you had a lot of extra pitch or maybe like extra cards and you were just like, you're not Reiner or Levia, you can't just do like the blood rush claw swing big or whatever, like a really typical kind of brute turn off a blood rush. How much did that come into play? Was there ever like a situation where like, oh, this really kind of sucks, or was that really not a consideration? The fact that you only have like one claw.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. So it is a consideration, and I think the biggest thing is that like traditionally the other brutes can just play Blood Rush and have a pretty good turn so long as they have
Mm-hmm.
some cards and some pitch.
Yeah.
Kayo really wants to have an agility token with his Blood Rush, or you can also try and have like a Wild Ride or a Pulping, like something that has Go Again. Although it's like a little bit risky too, because you can, of course, discard that card. Like if you have like Blood Rush in Arsenal and Wild Ride in hand, like you can just discard it. But if you have a Wild Ride in Arsenal and then you draw a Blood Rush, you're like kind of set to go. But you usually want some kind of Go Again. So your pattern, rather than like claw attack, is more like attack claw attack. Sometimes you don't get there, and sometimes you just do like attack with Go Again from the agility, then another attack, and that's like still pretty good. But the ideal is the two attacks in the claw. You just hopefully get there, and that's kind of the idea behind the like all the two costs as well. Is you have like 2/2/2, which works on your regular turns, and then like Tunic can help supplement those resources for your Blood Rush turns. And Tunic is just good with two costs because you can do two things that cost two with a Tunic off of blue. So
I want to talk a little bit about curve. And this, what I mean by this for anyone not familiar, is essentially your pitch curve. So how many resources you have versus your attacks, the general value you can get out of each pitch in this deck. I was kind of curious if there was like an idea, either when building or playing the deck, how much you want kind of each pitch card to be worth in any particular game. So in Brute, a lot of the consideration is a 2 for 6, a 3 for 7, or whatever. Is that kind of the same idea with this, or do you kind of want it to go the extra mile and you would arsenal it instead? So I guess this is a bit of a two-parter. So for Nghia, what I'm going to ask is, for every resource you had, how far did you want to go damage wise? Like, was there a point where you were, oh, I have like, I don't know, a blue and a yellow and one attack, but I can't really maximize that second one? Are you ever going to be like, oh, we'll save this attack for later? What was the kind of value number in your head?
I guess I didn't really have a value number. It was more as just like, I guess the only yellow attack I would really want to send is send packing. Like the other ones I
Okay.
will send, like Beast Within, Agile Windup, I can send, and they're not the worst. But like send packing is the only one like I really want to send. But like having the stuff valued at like 6,
Yeah.
like being able to pitch a blue and play like a 6 and maybe claw with Tunic or something like that felt really good.
Okay. So that was kind of like one of the main goals. You were trying to get an agility 6 and then claw, or something along those lines. Was like the general kind of play pattern you go towards?
Yeah, and all the blues. Yuki chose basically all the blues, but like all the choices, I feel like they were all either like castable or they like did something for a certain matchup. Like Agile Windup would make you an agility.
Yeah.
Smash Instinct is really good to be able to cast in the end game. Reincarnate is good if you discard it so you don't get fatigued.
Mm-hmm.
Sawn Battery makes an agility, stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
That makes sense. For Yuki, I guess the second part is kind of what makes the cut for the arsenal. So what I'm kind of saying is like, okay, so you have like you have your opening. Let's say you're going second. You have your 4 card hand. How important is it to arsenal to get the maximum value of? Let's say you have like an extra beast within or something like that. Um, what kind of cards are you okay with arsenaling to get better value on later? And do you have like a point in mind where you're gonna just unleash a 5 card hand regardless?
I think I think if I'm like left with an extra card, like often I would choose to block over arsenaling a blue or something like that, or like a beast within. But if I'm left with an extra card in KO, I think I'm basically always arsenaling it. Like maybe reckless swing, I wouldn't want to arsenal in the very
Mhm.
early game, but that's about it. And maybe even that is like kind of okay. It's still, I don't know, you still get like kind of 3 value out of it if you block with it, because you get like 4 block, 2 damage, and you lose a
Yeah.
card, so it's kind of like a 3. But it just turns out that like 5 attack off your blue is just still fine.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of block down. Maybe you have a might or two. It comes in for like 6 or 7, and it's like it's not amazing, but you're usually kind of like inclined enough to do that like most of the blues are worth arsenaling, and I think basically any of the yellows and reds are like, of course you would arsenal it. I'll say that Kayo does tend to like, again, like the Lexi comparison. I think that there's like cards that you really want to set up in your arsenal and you kind of want to sit on them. Like you want to set up your blood rushes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to like have a cast bones in your arsenal and wait till you have the agility so that you can play the cast bones in arsenal something else. You might want to have like a Savage Feast or a Runner to pair with your agility token, that kind of stuff. So you're often you may have like an arsenal that you are waiting to set up with another card or with agility tokens. But if you're just left with an extra card, you can pretty much arsenal whatever. The card quality is pretty high. I actually had, I think it was in my semis game. It was in one of my games in top 8 where my opponent was just like, "Can you stop throwing big attacks?" And I'm like, I can't really. Like they're all pretty big. Like
Lowest
it's
is
kind of the
literally
deck's
5.
identity. Yeah, it's just like it's kind of like the only thing that he does is just like throw big numbers, right? Like that's literally all the deck does. So yeah, basically all your blues are like at least somewhat playable, which is really nice. Especially like Smash Instinct, really impressive. Like
Smash
second
Instinct
cycle, you
real good.
just
Yeah.
you just intimidate them and they're just like, huh, you have like a blue 5 power attack that intimidates. You can kill a lot of people with that in late games.
I will say I feel intensely sad when I have to arsenal Wrecker-Romp blue because
Yes.
that's probably the worst. I've done it before because I've had to. It's so bad. I wouldn't do it again. And
It is really bad.
It's like I'd say out of the lists in general, you can't cut it. It's too good, but you cannot arsenal that card.
That card did win me one game though.
From the arsenal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you're just a good brute player, just like a solidly fundamental brute player to
No,
win off Wrecker Up from the arsenal.
It was into an Arachne and they were gonna fatigue me, but I played it to discard my reincarnate to go back in the deck and present like that plus claw to take enough cards where I fatigue them.
That is a very specific. Yep, that's true. Not that's legitimate. I would say 99% of scenarios do not arsenal blue.
Yeah, that card sucks. I'm locked with it.
Yeah, that is true. You usually, it's weird. Like I had some people ask me like, why is this in the deck? Because you can't really play it, and like you have infinite blue 6s. But the thing is,
do you though?
Yeah, it's the only blue. It's the only real blue 6, which is relevant, of course, for Illusionist as a popper, and also for your gloves, Apex Bonebreaker. So I find myself like blocking with Wrecker-Romp and the gloves to get a might token like a lot. Like it happens a lot.
Yep.
You're just like, yes, I can get my might token. I'm gonna do that now, especially if it's like a deck that I don't know, you're like a Levia or something, and they don't really have that many on hits, and you just kind of want to get the value out of your gloves.
Yeah. I've seen really common play pattern: double blue, red assault, and it's like some other card, and then you just like block with Wrecker Might, pitch to blue, red assault, get your agility, get another might coming in for like just clean, efficient damage. So I definitely agree with that. We're gonna move on to the slight difference that Nghia had compared to Yuki's list. Nghia, what cards did you run that Yuki didn't run, and why?
For the event, I didn't run Pack Hunt because Yuki didn't tell me about it. I was running Skullcrack.
Well, you should have read chat. I don't know what to tell you.
We did talk about it in chat. There was a lot of things we talked about
1 a.m.
that I never like put down in a deck list.
She just wrote it down on paper and kept it hidden.
I was building my deck at like the Starbucks the morning before and talking to like Michael Hamilton and Roger Bodie and like Craig Crumples, and they're like, so you're just like throwing something together? I'm like, well, like I kind of have a deck list. I sort of know what I'm doing.
So Pack Hunt, what did you run instead of Pack Hunt?
I was on Skullcrack, which was very good still. I think Pack Hunt is better, but Skullcrack was still like very impressive. It actually won me my 8th round.
Your 8th round Swiss, yes, which people will be able to see later on Savage Feats, I think.
It was a pretty good one.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to spoil it, but you should watch that. So you ran the Skullcrack. Any other changes?
I was still on yellow wild rides. I think Yuki switched it to assault and
Yeah.
batteries.
Red assaults, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked them. I'm a super big fan
The
of
yellow
them.
wild rides, just to be clear.
Yeah, they're almost always coming in for 6 to start because you usually chain like a mic going into the turn, and so it's like pseudo a red one, and then it's like I felt like it made the list a little more aggressive, which I was a big fan of. I think you preferred like the mid range style, but I liked a little bit more aggressive. And then the only other card difference was for the event. Yuki changed it now. I think the pack
The
call.
pack call, the blue pack calls.
I was on pack
Yeah.
call, yeah.
Oh, you changed to it.
Yeah,
Okay,
she
I
was on
wasn't sure
pack
if you
call.
were on it,
Blue
but
pack
yeah,
call.
Yeah.
the
So
pack calls were really good.
that's fair. So the WoW rides, the skull. Would you keep those in comparison now that you know pack hunts a card and just chill in the list here, or would you just keep the skull cracks? Do you think?
Skullcrack is already gone. It's already pack hunt. Like that card is like super good, especially when you're playing against these fatigue decks. Like
Yeah,
when you're playing against like these really defensive decks, it just like one, it takes away their choice, and then also it just prevents them from being able to block. So it's like everything you want against them. And then
yeah,
I'm still keeping my yellow wild rides. It kind of feels like a similar slot to assault and battery, except for Yuki's is like a more defensive play, like a more mid range play. You get to play slow,
yeah.
discard on your turn, and then mine's like I want to have go again on my card.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're sort of exchanging the like 3 block for a null block as well.
Yeah, that's also
But
important.
I do think there's a lot of ways you can customize a list if you want to. Like I think like there's a bunch of those like 2 cost, 6 power brute attacks that are like kind of playable and like sort of side grades of each other. And I think that depending on what you want to be good into, you could probably play
Yeah,
whatever suits you. I think you can play more wild rides if you want to. I think you could even play more pulpings if you want to. But I would start with the wild rides before the pulpings. Well, maybe, I don't know. The pulpings were really
you'd
impressive for
add
me.
yellow pulpings. You think
The
yellow
pulpings were
pulpings?
also really impressive for me.
They were insane. We kind of like came full circle on them because like the conventional wisdom on pulping is just because it's like if they have D reacts, you don't want pulping because they can just turn off the go again.
Yeah,
But then after a while, I was like, wait, maybe I want pulping against the decks that are like more defensive and block because it has dominate. And
Yep.
like I don't even really care about like you can just like wait until they don't have an arsenal. You can send packing their arsenal and get rid of their D react and then just pulping them anyways.
yeah.
Which is pretty funny. Um I think at my semis match, I also had a cast bones into a pulping for 12 dominate that let me get him in range for and then I killed him with pulping, but he was also in range of reckless swing, which was in my bitch stack. So it just gives you kind of that like evasive damage that you need to push over some of the decks, and you do have to be careful with it. You have to be aware that the go can go away, but I think it getting dominate is super real, especially with all the might tokens, and it's like a real way to kind of you have like a bit of that like Reinar element where there's like a certain amount of like kind of true damage that they're not going to
Yeah.
be able to block. It's like your blood rushes are going to leak damage. Your reckless swings, if you're playing them, are going to leak damage.
Mhm.
And your pulpings are probably going to leak damage or like get armor.
That makes sense. Um, I don't know if there's much to talk about the equipment suite. We could talk a little bit about Hardened Crossstrap, whether you ran it or not. I'm not actually sure if either of you ran the Crossstrap, and if you think it kind of deserves a slot in a deck that has a lot of flexibility with its like sideboarding options and stuff. So I guess just like a little bit on Hardened Crossstrap and how you feel about it from both of you.
I
Did
didn't
you
bring
play
it in
it?
once. I think I was talking to some friends after though, and they were telling me how like Yuki brought it in against Kano, and I think that just makes a lot of sense. I think that's the matchup
Yeah.
you wanted in.
Yeah, it was really instrumental in the Kano matchup. It sort of just like lets you extend without I don't think I like you could use it on the lethal turn. I think I ended up using it like just a bit before the lethal turn. I think in the finals game I ended up going like cross strap to attack with like I don't know, it was something real bad. It was like a clash of agility from Arsenal or something with go
Yep.
again.
Yep.
Um
You didn't side those out.
No, I just wanted two costs because like your curve's leaner, then you have more pitch to block
Yeah.
stuff with. I didn't really want the like assault and battery, for example. I'd rather
No.
have a two cost.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm not on that. That's why. That makes sense.
Both in the sideboard, but yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, but anyways, I like had that with go again off the cross strap, and I was holding two cards, and then he just like took it, went to two, and I just passed, and I got to Arsenal Red Wild Ride and pulled the yellow in my hand, and it was like pretty nice.
Mhm.
So I liked it there. In my head, it was sort of like maybe you can use it to race aggro decks, but like the tunic is so good in the deck. It's so good. Like anytime you get to do like two cost attacks off of the tunic or two cost attack into claw, it's crazy. If you have the nuts and you gotta go like Bear Fangs swing big, it's just like 17 value off of three cards with tunic. It's just like
Yeah.
super broken. So yeah, tunic is just like really hard to pass up in this deck, but I don't know. Maybe there's some spots where cross drop is good.
No, that's fair. So enough about the list. If anyone wants like a lot more list details, again, these notes will be on the Patreon. You guys can go check that out. It's not going to be on the video for specific cards and such. But as far as the matchups, obviously Yuki didn't lose, so and Nghia only lost twice. But were there a couple heroes that were giving you difficulty? So very close wins, um, or just like it looked like at points you were just like doomed, that kind of thing. And do you think there's kind of a solution for those matchups to make them a little bit more favorable, or maybe it's like not necessary and it's just like, okay, well those are close enough and that's it in the battle hardened specifically?
Arachne felt a little tough actually.
Just like fatiguing.
Especially with the new card coercive tendency. It's like
Yeah.
they got
Yeah.
rid of two of my blood rushes. And it really just takes away your reach when you don't have two blood rush fellows.
Oh, I bet.
And then
That's a
they
good
have like
coercive.
they can block 9 and then they can just like leave no witness to you, and you have to be like card plus armor or two pieces of armor, and you have to be like, okay, they have shreds as well to just like get through your stuff. And like
Yeah.
the Arachne I played against, I had to fatigue him.
The
Right.
damage.
No, I had to, like, it was like we went to like 5th cycle or something like that. It was a really good game. That one was really good. I had to eat an Eradicate for 8 at one point, and I just lost like I boarded up, but
Sounds
like
like such a wild game.
I lost like an eighth of my deck. It was insane.
That's all right. All these Arachne mains are just licking their lips, being like, "It's my time to shine."
I mean, I think it's going to be a good deck. The cards block well. Like you put on hits on the table. I think it's good.
No, that's fair. Not the same for Azura, you think, or is like more of an Arachne thing?
I think it's more of an Arachne thing because they also get to control the top of your deck with like
Yep.
the Arachne
With
ability
their
when they play a
yep.
contract card.
That's fair. Yuki, did you struggle with any particular deck on the day? You faced a lot of similar decks, but
Yeah, I think I played like 2 Victor, 2 Bravo, 2 Dory, 3 Kano,
yeah, it's
2 Levia. It was a lot of 2-ofs.
it kind of makes sense. Like those are the heroes that a lot of people thought would be like good going
Mhm.
into Valharn, like the Guardians, Levia. No real Kano to surprise people. No real kind of surprise there.
Yeah,
How did you?
I would say like the Guardians felt the hardest for
Yeah.
me. Victor in particular, I think felt the hardest. Victor's sort of weird. Like, I think that if you lose to Victor, you usually get fatigued because he doesn't really like. He can't actually kill you. You know, like he's not like Bravo, like he's not gonna like dominate,
Force
kill
dominate,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, but you can like wind up in a spot where he just like keeps throwing big enough attacks and drawing enough cards that he can like kind of keep up with you. And then you have to start blocking, and he has like spinals and stuff that you care about, choke slams that you care about. And you can kind of like wind up in a spot where you fatigue or you get like close to fatigue. I feel like you're like either at fatigue or close to fatigue almost every game. So that's like a matchup that is, I think, a little bit tricky. A lot of it kind of
Mhm.
comes down to like how many clashes they win.
Yes. Especially gold.
Yeah. There was like one that we actually went to time, but I had a reckless in my stack, and he was at, I don't know, like 1 or 2.
Reckless,
And
yes.
so he ended up conceding, which was very kind of him. But that game was like, I felt like I was way ahead, and then he's just like, Clash of Vigor, I reveal Golden Sun, I draw Golden Sun, I get a card, blue Tenyu, and I'm just like, okay, like that's really sweet. So
Must
like
be nice.
weirdly, Victor, like even though you have really crazy math, like Victor's math is like just as crazy as yours if
Yeah.
he hits his clashes, which
Yeah.
like he's decent at doing. Like you clash
Yeah.
pretty well, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird matchup.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Victor definitely one of those closer matchups. The last question I have for the video, um, not saying who caused this, but a lot of these brute cards seem to be gone up in prices. I don't know why all these brute cards are going up in prices. Crazy, like Casper. I couldn't imagine why. I gotta YouTube get some YouTube videos going and search these excellent takes about why these brute cards are going up. But if I want to bring this, like, we're trying to make this game a little bit more affordable and playable for everyone. Can I switch some of these cards? Are there some more economical options you think players can take for some of these cards? Maybe like the L, like any of like the Apex Bonebreaker. Do I have to run Cast Bones? Things like the cards that are really gonna set you back a little bit too much now if they want to bring it to an RTN or something, or just play it in an Armory. Do you think there's any kind of easy replacements that you can think of, or replacements that people can work towards? Or
Cast bones
this
feels really important. That
all
one
right.
Yeah.
specifically, the cast bones blood rush is how you're having your really, really big turns.
Yeah.
Or more, where do you think people should put their money into this deck? That might be a better thing if they
Cast
had
Bones.
Cast
cast. Okay,
bones.
I'm just gonna put cast bones up here. So cast
It,
bones.
Cast Bones is insane. The other thing that Cast Bones does that's like maybe a little bit innocuous is because you reveal the top 6 and then it goes back in a random order, you should be paying attention to what those 6 cards are. And it matters so much because once you draw your 4 cards, you should know what the other 2
Top two
cards are.
cards. Yeah.
And if you blood rush, that means you know exactly what you're drawing into. So you have like almost full information. I guess the discard's random, but like that's super valuable. If you have like a wild ride or any draw discard effect, you know like there's like 1 of 2 cards on the top of your deck. So it's like there's no whiff. I have a 50% chance of a whiff. I'm guaranteed to have a whiff. Like you know exactly what's like what your odds are, which is really big. And it also just lets you set up, like Nghia was saying, like you can just like set up Cast Bones Blood Rush, Cast Bones Pulping. It's really good. So I think that if you don't have access to Cast Bones, I don't think it's like you can't play KO, but you probably don't want to play this build of KO. Like you could look at building like maybe a more Berserk style list.
Yep.
You might be able to run more non-attacks or like more non-6s in the deck.
Non-sixes,
Like you
yeah.
might be able to have like Lead with Speed is a good card, Smashback Aelhorn are good cards. It's just that like Cast Bones really demands Cast Bones, like Berserk, really demands that you have like almost all 6s in your deck. Because they just get worse so quickly, like the more whiffs that you introduce. So I think for this style of list, like you could translate it to Berserk pretty easily. But if you're not going to play Berserk or Cast Bones, like I think that there might still be something to explore there. But you probably don't need to have like so few 6s because like right now I think I'm on like 8
I think
usually.
I think it's 8. 3, 3,
And
2.
I don't think you want to go too much. Like maybe you can do 9, but that kind of feels like the limit. Like the math on Cast Bones gets bad pretty fast if you keep introducing whiffs.
Yeah, I don't think I played more than 6 at the event, and I don't think I'd play more than 7 myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Any card, Nia, other than cast bones that you would say is
Obviously,
so
Blood Rush. I'm not sure if that's expensive right now,
it's
but
not it's no it's a lot of print of Blood Rush. It's just it's old card. It's been around for a while. Different sets. Maybe like I guess
this one's
scabs doesn't really need to be scabs in this deck.
yeah, like as long as it's like some sort of equipment, I guess like that one is probably the most like it's the equipment I could get rid of the most out of all of them.
Yeah.
Because like
Run
scowling, you just have such good scowling turns.
Scowling's very good,
Apex is
yes.
insane. Um, a card that's like really really impressive just because of its math is swing big. So like I wouldn't get rid of that. But like maybe runner you could switch out for like
Mhm.
a Stalton battery or like maybe red I'll wind up something like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay,
Um,
couple good
yeah.
options just to make the deck a little bit more affordable. That was
Yeah.
it. I don't know if this was useful for anybody watching or just want to hear a little bit of context for the deck. Obviously, both of these players extremely well at the deck, 19 and 2 combined. If you want more detailed analysis about the sideboarding, specific sideboarding with the gameplay analysis and of course matchup guides, you can check that out on the Bobble Patreon tier. Yuki will have you covered. That'll probably be coming up pretty soon, just in time for RTN. So go check that out. With that, any closing thoughts, Yuki or Nghia, for all the fans, all the adoring fans? I know Nia's got a lot of Brute fans now. He's probably gonna start adding him in the Brute chat.
KO's a lot of fun. I know that I feel like Brute's kind of like a polarizing class. There's like a lot of people that love Brute and a lot of people that hate Brute. I'll say that I'm not somebody that liked Brute very much at all. But I really enjoy KO and I think he's a lot of fun. So I think if your biggest like if you're like look you're probably like already like kind of interested if you're watching this video, but if your like biggest aversion to the deck is like I don't like Brute, you should just play it and give it a shot. Even if it's just like on Talishar or something, try it out because I think that KO offers something very different from what we've seen from Levi and Reinar, and just like a lot of those pain points that you might have with the class might not be there with KO. So the deck is a ton of fun. There's a lot of room to explore and swap out cards and do different builds, and like KO's like really interesting because he has like so many power cards, but it's like it feels like one of the only decks where like you can't just put all the power cards in together because they all make each other worse. You know, like
Yeah.
if your deck is just like tear limb from limb, cast bones, blood rush bellow, berserk, like you have like a garbage pile, you know. So it's pretty interesting
Yes.
because most decks are just like you play all the good cards and then you build from there. But KO's like you pick which good cards you want to build around and then you build from there, which is
That's
really
a good
fun.
point.
So
It's
yeah.
definitely a good point. Nia, what about you?
Um, as one of the number one Brute haters coming into this deck, if you like math or you liked playing Lexi, this is probably a deck for you. The
All
math
right.
is insane, and it really you really sculpt your turns like Lexi, and you have the versatility in the deck to be able to make changes like you did with the arrows, kind of.
No, it's
But
fair.
yeah, try it out. It's better than you think it'll be.
Well, as always, appreciate you two for coming on the channel. Get everyone a nice look at KO Armed and Dangerous. And for all the views out there, if you like this kind of content, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And with that, from wherever you're watching, have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Bye for now.